Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So it says, we're on 185 of Baqara, Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. There's different opinions here about how does that work? Because we also know that it was revealed in other than Ramadan. There were surahs and verses that revealed other than Ramadan. So one opinion is that it means Ramadan is the month in which the Ramadan that began to be revealed. It began to be revealed in Ramadan. So when you say it was revealed, meaning it started to become revealed in Ramadan. Another explanation is that rather we're talking about things, obviously, when we talk about the Quran, we don't even know what we're talking about because we're talking about something that's on another level, right? When you say tanzeel, you're coming from above to below. Above what to below what? Like we don't. These are things we don't understand. So anyway, that if we look at the Quran as a file, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lillah al-mathal a'la. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beginning is eternal, and his speech is beginning is eternal, and his speech is not created. But let's imagine if we think of Allah's speech as a file, it was downloaded, so to speak, from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to al-Bayt al-Ma'mur in Ramadan. And from the Bayt al-Ma'mur, what is the Bayt al-Ma'mur? Bayt al-Ma'mur is the equivalent of the Kaaba. It's like the Kaaba of the other heavens. So we have the Kaaba, and it has the Bayt al-Ma'mur. Ma'mur means visited frequently, because every single day there's millions and millions of angels that go there, etc. And so it was descended from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Bayt al-Ma'mur, and then from the Bayt al-Ma'mur to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam over 23 years. So that download, so to speak, happened in Ramadan, according to some scholars, right? What did that mean? It has a significance to us. Exactly what significance happens when it shifts from one thing to the other, how does it work? We don't know, but there's obviously a huge significance in that. Wallahu a'lam. So Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed as a guide for humanity with clear proofs of guidance and a standard to distinguish between right and wrong. So whoever is present in this month, let them fast. Here we have a debate. When you say you're present, is it present anywhere in the world or is it present in one place? Okay, so according to the Shafi'is and Malikis, the Ramadan is relative. Just like the prayer times are relative. It's Maghrib. It might be Maghrib in Boston, but it's not Maghrib here yet, right? So similarly, Ramadan is based on the seeing of the new moon. So there might be a new moon in California, but not in Morocco. Might be in Morocco, but not in Pakistan. And so every single place has its own Ramadan and its own Eid. So it's totally fine according to the Shafi'is and the Malikis, for example, if you have Eid in California one day and in East Coast somewhere else, the day before, the day after, it's not a problem, right? It doesn't matter what's happening here or there. According to the Hanafis and the Hanbalis, no. If it's seen to the east, then it comes in the west. So that if they saw it in Pakistan, that means Middle East, North Africa, Europe, North America, everybody has to fast. There's no difference. It doesn't matter if you saw it or not. Right? Hanafi wal Hanbali. هذا رأي تقي الدين السبكي من الشافعية كمان. And then I had a whole presentation on calculations, etc. And that's another discussion. Inshallah, I'll share that on the group, inshallah. Okay, so whoever is present, let him fast. But whoever is ill, so we say, Ya Allah, why have you excused me from fasting when I'm ill? And you'll say, the same system. We said before, you can't eat pork. Okay, when can I eat pork? When you're going to die otherwise. Right? If you would die, then you have to eat pork. If you're going to choke, then you have to drink wine to get this thing out of your throat. So the haram becomes halal for a darura. Same thing, I'm sick. I need to take a medication. If I don't take this medication now, I will pass out. I'll die. So this is exactly the same system. Same thing. Right? But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever is ill or on a journey. Okay. So can you eat pork for a convenience? No. Can you eat pork if it's very difficult? Let's say I haven't eaten for 2 days. Can I eat pork? No. So why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me to break my fast for a journey? I'm not going to die if I fast on a journey, right? I'm not going to die. Why? Umumul balwa. Because it's widespread difficulty that applies to me, you, him, her, them, at all time and all place. So even if specifically it's not a problem for me, it's not a problem. I'm going in Uber Black from here to SFO and then I'm going to fly for 1 hour and it's easy. I have my private jet and it's nice weather, nice everything's not a problem, right? It doesn't matter. The point is, it's generally difficult for everybody, right? So that was the principle we mentioned. There's darura, okay, and then there's haja amma, right? Widespread difficulty that applies to people in general. We mentioned yesterday the argument of some scholars. They say, we mentioned the three arguments for riba on a house. They said, what was it? One, that money isn't money, fiat currency isn't currency. We mentioned one that we're in a war zone, right? Which we're not. And the third one was, oh, it's a haja amma, that if I can't buy a house and you can't buy a house and he can't buy a house and there's no Islamic finance and there's no way, then it's difficult for everybody to have their own house. That was one argument of certain scholars, right? Majority of scholars disagree totally. And in fact, there was a conference on that issue and they accepted it. They said, oh, in the West, it's very difficult. And then they realized it's the same in the East and the West. So anyway, that's another issue. But the logic is what? The logic is just as the haram becomes halal for darura, life or death situation, the haram becomes halal for widespread recurrent difficulty, right? Widespread recurrent difficulty. We mentioned why is it a woman, for example, exposing her forearm when she's working in a field? She's working in a kitchen. So, well, because it's difficult. And it's not just for me, it's not for her, it's for any woman throughout the world. It's hard to do that. So those scholars who allow that, they say because it's recurrent difficulty, as opposed to working in an office or walking down the street, there's no need, right? So the Sharia changes from haram to halal for darura, and similarly al-haja al-amma, right? Widespread recurrent difficulty, right? As opposed to something that is nadir, something that is rare, you're going to have to deal with it, right? So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not asked, has relieved us from fasting on a journey because it's difficult for us, all of us in general. Even if it's not a darura, right? Even if it's not a darura, even if it's not an issue of life and death. But whoever is ill or on a journey, let him fast an equal number of days. Allah intends ease for you, not hardship. See? Allah intends ease for you, not hardship, right? So the religion is like going to the gym. You go to the gym, and what do young people like me do? You go to the gym and hurt yourself on the first day because you're like, oh, I got this. I'm like, no, I got this. And then you pick up weights you can't pick up and you do these things, like you're just going to harm yourself. So if Allah gave us things in the deen that are too difficult, we just die. We just get crushed. It doesn't do anything for us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do you do when you start? Okay, you haven't been to the gym for a long time. Okay, let's start walking. Okay, let's just pick up some things. Let's just do calisthenics. Let's do this, do this. Okay, bit by bit by bit. But if it's not difficult at all, no pain, no gain, right? If there's no pain, there's no gain. So people, they're caught between two things. It's either life or death. This is the deen and it's not going to change unless it's life or death, or it's sometimes even life or death. And other people, the slightest little difficulty, I don't want to do it. The deen is easy, brother. Slightest little difficulty, right? So we mentioned things like shaking hands at work. Oh, it's awkward. Yeah, I know it's awkward. I've been in that situation many times. Sometimes you can explain yourself. Sometimes you know the lady. Sometimes you don't. And sometimes the person hates you to begin with. Right? I remember specifically like this lady putting a hand out and I didn't have it. The situation didn't allow it. And I could see it in her eyes, but telling me, I thought you guys hated us. And now I know you hate us. Like it was very bad situation. It's awkward, but that's a one-off. It's a one-off here and there. And it is an issue of haraj, like a difficulty, right? As opposed to, for example, I'm a policeman and I need to arrest this lady. Oh, I can't touch her. You have to touch her. Who else is going to put her in the car? Right? You're a medic. You're a nurse. You're a this. You're a that. Right? There's big differences. So people they don't put things in the right box. Right? And there's some things that are debated. Is it this? Is it that? Right? But there's darura, and then there's haja, and then we have down here we have All right, مشقة غير معتبرة, right? Like that's not significant enough. So we mentioned the inconvenience of making wudu. Does that alleviate me of making wudu? No. The difficulty of going to the masjid, does that alleviate me from going to the masjid? No. That's the whole point. The whole point. And they used to be harder. You used to walk in the dark and used to be dangerous, etc. Right? And so we see this system again and again and again. Allah intends ease for you, not hardship, so that He may complete the prescribed period and proclaim the greatness of Allah for guiding you, and perhaps you will be grateful. When my servants ask you, O Prophet, about me, I am truly near. I respond to one's prayer, they call upon me. So let them obey me and let them believe in me, that perhaps they will be guided. It has been made permissible for you to be intimate with your wives during the nights preceding the fast. So originally, it was haram for them. They had to start fasting from the time they go to sleep. So what they would do is they have Maghrib, pray Isha, eat, drink, do whatever they want to do. And then when they go to sleep, khalas. You're now starting to fast from that time. There's no suhoor. That doesn't exist. Right? And then we had suhoor, and the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to have suhoor. Again, why? Because Allah wants to make things easy for us. You should make things easy for yourself. You should delay suhoor. You should eat properly, right? So right now, when we break our fast, the nafs wants to eat a lot of food. It's not particularly useful, right? Suhoor, the nafs often doesn't want to eat a lot of food. Some people, they can't eat much food, but you should. So you should have a heavy suhoor and a light iftar, and not the other way around, right? Because when you're having a heavy suhoor, that's for the day, right? So for me, my day is going to start now. I mean, 7:45, right? That's when the kids are going to come in. So I had meat, I had this. I forced myself to have an extra croissant. I forced myself to drink this and forced myself to drink that, right? Because this is a taqwiyah, right? To strengthen ourselves for ibadah, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, so originally they did that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was aware of certain Sahaba doing things they shouldn't have done. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, it's okay, right? It has now been made, so now there's such thing as fasting from Fajr on and being intimate with one's wife, etc. at night is halal. So it has been made permissible to be intimate with your wives during the nights preceding the fast. Your spouses are a garment for you as you are a garment for them. And so it's a very important thing to understand that most people, most Muslims, particularly Indo-Pak and Afghans, they have a Christian way of looking at intimacy. What does that mean? It means that in a Christianity, for a Christian, God, Jesus, was born with no sin, right? His mother never did anything bad. She never did anything bad. She was never married. She didn't, and so therefore Jesus came to the world in a sinless way. And Jesus and Mary, the woman that they look up to, she's good because she never got married. And a monk and a priest are the good people because they never get married. Bad people or less good people, they get married and they do shameful things. And then children are born into the world in a shameful way, and they are born with sin. And then when you reach puberty, the sin is shown on you. Like the disgrace is on your neck, which is your Adam's apple. This is the sign that you've now reached puberty, and now you're a bad person too. But it's okay, because God died on the cross for you. So you're a bad person. You came into the world in the bad way. Husband and wife, they do bad things. Everything's bad and shameful. And the only good people are God, Jesus, and the monks and the priests and those people. That's the mentality, right? And this causes a lot of problems. So what you find is and so this is a Hindu way of thinking, and it comes into Indo-Pak culture. I don't know how it comes into Afghan culture, but it comes in as well. And so I'm not going to mention the word, but there's a certain word for things they use in Farsi, and the word is almost kufr. Why is it almost kufr? Because of the word for intimacy in Farsi is the opposite of what the Prophet ﷺ said. The Prophet ﷺ described it as sadaqah. So sadaqah versus something else. So if you say this word and you mean it, you say this is this, and it's actually bad, then it's kufr. Because the Prophet ﷺ said this is sadaqah. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that This is okay. This is in Ramadan. This is good. You are a source of comfort for her, and she is some source of comfort for you, right? You're helping each other out. This is like, it's like having iftar. Is iftar bad? No, this is a nice thing. Imagine if somebody said, "Why are you having iftar? Stop eating nice food." Like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, is it bad to eat food? Like, I thought this is nice food. And you're like, no, it's bad to eat food. Okay, what do I do then? Stop eating food. Astaghfirullah. And then you felt bad about eating food, right? You felt bad about eating. Why do I feel bad about eating? I enjoy food. It's nice food. Alhamdulillah. I'm not eating too much. I'm not excessive. This is nice, healthy. Alhamdulillah. So the same thing, right? Imagine, for example, we didn't have a bathroom here. This is exactly the same concept. Imagine if we didn't have a bathroom here because bathrooms are bad. So then after people break their fast, where are they going to go? Mursaleen looks this way, looks that way, and runs over there. And he's like, "Where did you go?" "Nowhere. I didn't go anywhere." And he feels like really embarrassed. Like, what happened? So he's embarrassed about something that's normal and natural. So in the West, that's where they're coming from. We have to understand. In the West, it was for them it was something that's not normal, not natural, very bad and embarrassing. So then they reacted in the 1950s and became everywhere. It's just in your face now, everywhere, right? For us, it's something very good, it's healthy, it's nice, but it's private. That's the difference. It's private. So you don't talk about it. You don't do it in public. You don't kiss your wife in the street. You don't say, "Oh, hi, brother, make dua. My wife and I were praying for a baby." SubhanAllah. You don't say things like that, brother. Right? You don't say things like that. Right? That's it's called qillat haya. But there's a difference between haya and haram. The two different things. One is I'm shy about something, and you should be shy about things because it's private, versus that's haram. So the thing is, that's how people think about these things. So anyway, what it means is it causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of problems. So here's a situation, for example. Here's a man in the last 10 days, and his wife's like, "What's your problem?" Like, "Bro, you're just an animal." I'm like, "SubhanAllah, sister." It says, you are a garment for me, and I am a garment for you. This is a basic human need. This brings us close together. This makes the family strong. But you want family to be strong? Bro, what's that? This is a basic thing. You want the kids to be happy. You want these things. These things should be functioning things, right? And so, subhanAllah, we mentioned this in the beginning of Ramadan, that many people, their priorities are wrong. So, sister, what is the priority? Iftar with your uncle coming around, or being physically available for your husband? What's a priority? So she's cooking all day and shopping all day, and then this happened, and then they stayed till midnight, and then the guy asks for something or suggests something. She's like, "What's your problem, bro? Like, can you not see what happened today?" I say, "Okay, tomorrow then." Next day, it's like, "Hey, nothing's happening." So now this guy, what happens when things are not happening? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, He said, Allah Prophet told us, He said, Ya ma'ashar shabab, right? MashaAllah, we have shabab here as well. Like, oh youth, whichever of you can get married because it will help you lower your gaze. So now he's not married. I mean, he's married, but he's not married. So he's in the office, he's at work, he sees everything that everybody sees. And then the fasting suddenly becomes very difficult. The fasting suddenly becomes very difficult. And the Prophet ﷺ, right? Inshallah, I'm working on a whole class on this. The Prophet ﷺ, he referred to women as what? Shaqa'iq al-rijal. By the way, they're no different to us. They're the same, right? There's a hadith, it's very weak, that said that shahwa is of 10 parts. One part was given to men and 9 to women. But the reason why they don't talk about it is because they have haya, right? So a normal non-Muslim be like, "Oh, check her out." That's what non-Muslims do, right? And some Muslims who don't have good akhlaq, right? But women do that less, but they're the same. So it doesn't say men need this. It says men and women this. You are a garment for her, and she's a garment for you. This is a basic human need, right? And so what do people don't talk about it? They don't emphasize it. They look at it in a bad way. They look at it as something silly and immature, when it's not silly and immature. So for a man, it's a huge dhulm, it's a huge oppression that he not be available for his wife, right? It's an oppression, right? For a woman, it's a blatant oppression. There's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 clear Sahih hadiths where the Prophet ﷺ said, any woman who is not doesn't make herself available for her husband, and she spends the night and he doesn't forgive her, then she spends the night being cursed by the angels. So she's in Taraweeh or Qiyam al-Layl and she's being cursed by the angels. She went on Umrah and he's like, I don't think you should go on Umrah, you know? And she's like, no, it's good. Da, 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 da. It's like, no, no, like I'm asking you not to go on Umrah. Like or I'm telling you, like I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. She's like, come on, bro. I didn't go on Umrah last year, you didn't da, 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 da. And it's like, she's like, I'm going. So she goes against his permission, right? Or in a way that just made him feel so awkward. Khalas, like if you're going to keep arguing, just go. So she goes on Umrah and she's not at the Kaaba, right? So I remember I was once at a wedding. Um, we hear funny things at weddings, right? So there was a sheikh, it's a very, very famous sheikh, Sheikh Ratib al-Nabulsi, right? He's famous in the Middle East. So he was giving this talk at this wedding. And he gave this talk and it was very beautiful and it was very nice. And at the end, he said something funny, which I thought was always funny. But then I realized it's not funny. So right at the end, he said, "Qumi ila firashiki," which means usually say "Qumi ila salatiki," like get up and pray, right? You say "Qumu ila salatikum," get up and pray, and he said, "Get up and go to your bed." And I was like, "Oh man," that was like, why did the sheikh say that? That's like funny. And then I realized the sheikh was joking, but he wasn't joking. Why? It's because people think that ibadah is Quran, ibadah is Hajj, ibadah is, and they see that, for example, buying and selling a car is not ibadah, right? So, which is wrong, right? So, ibadah is everything. And the number one ibadah that we have on other people is huquq al-ibad, the rights of other people. Like nothing means anything. Like so many times I get caught like this. I'm answering a question and I'm late for work. Why? What's the point in doing the sunnah when you don't do the fard? Makes no sense. Unless you're following your nafs and the shaitan. Right? So here's a sister, she doesn't understand that this is really important. It's not a small thing. Right? It's really important, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, he said, what? Any woman who? She prays her five. So sister Taraweeh is very important, but it's not your priority. And she fasts her month. Oh, but I have to do Ashura. I have to do this day and 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 this day. That's fantastic, but it's not a priority. So you fast, you pray your 5 daily prayers, just the fard. Fantastic. You fast just Ramadan. Right? وأطاع بعلها أو زوجها. وأطاعت بعلها أو أطاعت زوجها. She obeys her husband. دخلت جنتها. Listen to the language. She will enter her own private Jannah. It's not Jannah. Jannataha. She will enter her own special Jannah. Right? Lahum ajruhum doesn't mean, what is lahum ajruhum? It means they have their own specifically custom-made ajr. Right? My ajr and Mursalin's ajr is not the same, but his custom-made ajr. So she'll have her custom-made Jannah. Right? But what did they do? They prioritize my masters, prioritize my work, prioritize the kids. So this is a key thing for women. They have to prioritize. They have a million things, right? And so they need to manage their managers. Meaning what? My husband's asked me to do A, B, C, D, 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 D. My family's this, family this. Cut, priority. And so for a woman, she's got very simple priorities. On Judgment Day, I'm not going to ask her about the kids' exams because that's not her job. I'm not going to ask her about the bills. That's not her job. I'm not going to ask her about what happened in Gaza. That's our job. That's on our shoulders. That's for the men to answer this question. About what happened why did Trump come in? Why did this happen? That's not her thing. She is very simple. Did you listen to your husband? Were you physically available? No. So, I was tempted once, and I haven't done it yet, to give a khutbah on this and to promise $10,000 to any woman who never said no to her husband. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. She could be a sheikha, she could be this, she could be that, but a woman who said, Wallahi al-azim, I never said no. Right? And the Prophet, the language the Prophet used, he said, even if she's on the qatab, even if she was on the qatab, this phrase qatab means she's holding on to this as a thing holding on to this thing that women used to hold on to when they give birth. So the Prophet it's mubalagha, right? The Prophet said, if he says, and she's like, no, she can't say no, even if she's about to give birth. Now, obviously, it's a mubalagha, right? She's giving birth. This is your darura, right? Life or death. Okay, there's something different. But the point is, in your mind, right? It's sister, you're not in that situation. You're not about to give birth, right? But it's just, and the process, and this is the beautiful thing as well, the process. Who are the teachers who taught us the sunnah? Women. So you see women asking women about the Prophet ﷺ. So one of the tabi'at, she asked, what if I'm not in the mood? Or what if I'm tired? Sorry, what if I'm not in the mood? Or what if I'm upset with him? That's the reasons. I'm upset with him. Every wife is upset with their husband or something. But that's the test. That's the whole point. If it was only when I like him and I'm in the mood, dude, I mean, there's no test then, is it? So taklif, right? Taklif, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala charges you to do something, right? That's ilzam ma fihi kulfa. That means making you do something that's not easy. Oh, mashallah, Khalid always spoke the truth. What did he have to do? Nothing. It was always easy. There was no situation ever. When you say, mashallah, he spoke the truth, when it was hard, right? When it was hard, right? Oh, mashallah, he traveled, he was away from his family for 20 years, and not once did he look at a single woman. What? Because they were all dead. They were all dead women everywhere. I said, why would you look at them? As opposed to, subhanAllah, he was in the situation and this fitna came, but he did the right thing, mashallah. So women who think like this, is like, so they don't know their priorities because we haven't taught us their deen. It's our job to teach our daughters the deen. But what? We don't talk about it because, it's awkward. The words of the Prophet ﷺ are too awkward for us. The teachings of the Quran are too awkward for us. Because we are what? Catholic Muslims. Catholic Muslims, meaning everything's awkward. We don't read the Quran, we don't read the Hadith, everything's strange, and we just want the priest to do it. And then we send our daughter to the maktab to do alif ba ta, and we expect her to understand this. When? How am I going to explain this to your daughter? I'm not going to explain this to your 14-year-old daughter, and I'm doing alif ba ta, am I? So these are important things, very important things, because it breaks the nucleus, right, of the family, which breaks the community, which breaks the ummah. And you're like, why Gaza? Because this isn't happening. Because people don't put their priorities right. He doesn't think this is important. She doesn't think this is important. And they're looking at everywhere else apart from here. But if we just said, Allahu Akbar means whatever Allah wants me to do, that's the most important thing. That means I have to prioritize. So people don't want to prioritize. I need to become a doctor, and I need to work, and I want my kids to do this and do this. And so somebody who understands an obligation, if you manage your managers, right? I'm working for Badr, for example, and Badr says, Fareed, I need you to do ABC, but priority is this. I'm like, okay, fine. If that's a priority, take that off my list. You want me to be available? Take this off my list. I'm not going to take the kids to here and back. Don't tell me to do that. Don't come and ask me to do this. You need to give me time because I'm not a robot. But those conversations never happen, do they? Because you live with in-laws and they say this and like, oh, look how dirty her house is. Look how this, and she's worried about the in-laws, and she's worried about this, and she's worried about this, and what this, and it's a autoimmune disease. They're destroying it. The family itself is destroying the family. And then the kids hate the deen, and everybody hates the deen. Everyone's like, what is this? And then nobody wants to get married. All they want to do is do the haram. Whereas if we have Islamic marriages, where people feel this conversation can happen with your husband, it can happen with your wife, right? There was this lady in Saudi Arabia. Here's a lady in Saudi Arabia. So this is a question on a big Saudi Arabian website. She's like, I have needs. I can't ask my husband. I can't talk to my husband about things like this because it's too awkward. The verse is not in his head. He doesn't see that he is a libas for me and I'm a libas for him. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing things to myself. I don't like to say that, haram things. And it's like, subhanallah. Allah's made the deen that the deen does not just talk about how do you put your head in prayer. It talks about everything, finance, how to go to the bathroom, how to clean, how to this, how to wash up, how to every single thing. This is part of the deen, but people ignore it. And then things fall apart. And so this is very important. Another sister, again, this is in Saudi Arabia. This is not coming from some weird Western, Gurasab talking about the deen. This is in Saudi Arabia. The sister, she says, I'm in Saudi Arabia and I'm attracted to my fellow employees. Astaghfirullah. Why astaghfirullah? That's normal. What do you expect? What she sees, what you see, the same person. It's the same people. Shaqa'iq al-Rajal, she's your full sister. She's exactly like you. She's exactly like you. So then she goes and says, oh, I told my husband. It's like, why did you tell your husband? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? And when that situation happens, you should go to your husband. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, when you see a woman like that and the thought comes to you, you should go to your wife. Yeah, but she's not available. See the dhulm? So it's supposed to be like the wife obviously sees things, the husband obviously sees things. That's human nature. This is human nature. This is not something strange. These people are not, it's like, oh, you have no self-respect. No, it's just human nature. But then what? The door is closed. So the door to the halal is closed. So obviously the door to the haram is open. And then we're watching this and she's watching this and everybody sees everything. And then it's a weird behavior, very strange behavior. And there's this tension. It's like, no, this is important, very, very important. Priority. So for a woman, what is your priority in wife? And this is, speaking to anybody who has girls, you sit down and say, I'm so sorry, my daughter, maybe I never told this to you before. Maybe you're going to find super weird that dad's telling you, or maybe mom can tell you. But like when you get married, this is your number one thing, right? The Shafis, they're very strange when it comes to this. The Shafis, they say there's actually no other obligation she has to do at all. She has to give birth. She does not have to breastfeed. She only has to breastfeed for the first 3 days. That's it. She doesn't have to breastfeed. She doesn't have to change the diapers. She just sits there doing her nails and saying, well, I'm available whenever you're ready. That's it. So that sounds a bit strange, but what it means is if you look on Judgment Day, all the things that a woman could do, she's like, well, I used to take the kids to this, I used to help with the homework. Sister, what is the number one thing going to be asked about? One thing, right? What does nikah mean in Arabic? Nikah in Arabic means that. That's what it means, right? So marriage has lots of goals, okay, building society, but that's its main basic thing is halal intimacy. That's the main basic thing, right? Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, for a man to say no to his wife is like, this is huge oppression because this is min awkadi haqqiha, right? This is of the most important rights that she has because there's nobody else. If you don't pay the bills, her brother can support her, somebody else can support the state. Who else can give her that thing? Nobody else. Nobody else. But the door's not open, the conversations are not there, these things don't happen. And so, subhanAllah, Ramadan is about Quran. No, Ramadan is not about Quran. Ramadan is about applying the Quran. It's not about Taraweeh, it's about applying Taraweeh. This is what should happen. It should be like, oh, you heard the verse? Okay, I better go home. Better go home. As opposed to, astaghfirullah, it's Ramadan, what's your problem, bro? Right? In Ramadan, we're supposed to give sadaqah, right? Yeah, brother Muhammad Anwar, he's stuck. He's facing a problem. He can't come to the masjid because I talk about polygamy, and I can't go home because subhanallah. So he's just going to stay outside cleaning. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward to increase him. But what was I saying was, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in fasting? Fasting is the month of sadaqah, right? Everyone gives sadaqah. What did the Prophet say about intimacy? Is sadaqah. Right? The Prophet said, have you not considered if you did it in a haram way, you would have a sin? Similarly, if you do it in a halal way, you have an ajr. So this is something that is good. But we look at it something that is bad and a waste of time. So for a sister, so it's just like, yeah, I haven't finished my taraweeh yet. What's your problem? I want to do qiyam al-layl. Well, you want to leave the fard for the sunnah? Yes. Why? You worshipping yourself or worshipping Allah? If you worshipped Allah, then you do whatever's fard. Alhamdulillah. Right. Similarly, this brother has a debt, for example. I say, hey, I need the money by tomorrow morning. You better get in the Uber. And he's like, okay, let me just finish my 200 rakats of Qiyam al-Layl. Like, bro, go and work. I need the money. Like, I need that money. Please pay me back. So get in the Uber, start driving. And he's like, yeah, but I can't pray. I felt this was a bad Ramadan because I couldn't do Qiyam al-Layl. No, you're doing the fard, Habibi. You're doing the fard. You're working a 90-hour week. That's okay. That's your fard. That's what you need to do. Alhamdulillah. You're distributing food for orphans. Oh, I can't even fast today. I'm exhausted. Alhamdulillah. Because I had to break my fast because I was climbing a mountain to save a kid. Alhamdulillah. Right? So prioritizing the fard over the sunnah is a basic concept in the deen. Basic concept. But we don't do it. Because we worship culture, we worship something else. Right? That's when she signed the contract, that became fard 24/7. That's what it is. So when she says no, it's haram. And on top of that, this is a very important thing. On top of that, when she says no, what happens? Qada'an, right? Obviously, between people, we're not going to care. Khalas. If you don't, you got to forgive and forget, right? This is the month of forgiveness as well, right? But qada'an, what happens in the court, right? So they haven't been together for the last 2 years. They don't even live together, right? She says, I want 2 years of nafaqah. And so we ask, were you available for him? She said, no, she was never available. There's no nafaqah. There's no financial support. If she says no, there's no financial support. So, sister, if you respect yourself, right? I'm working for Mursaleen and I say, bro, I need to take the day off. Why? I'm reading a book. He's like, Habibi, you were awake. You missed last week because your son was sick. I understand, but I need you to work. So I'm working, I'm doing a job. I'm working for Mursaleen. If I can't do the job, just tell him I can't do the job. You want to read your book, go read your book, but I'm not going to pay you. Don't ask me to pay you and not do your job. So for a woman, especially if she has money, she's like, you know what? I realize I can't do this job. Okay. Number one, you don't deserve the food that you're eating. It's not your money. The electricity that you're using, the house, it's not yours. There's no nafaqah. Right? If you say no, that means there's no nafaqah. So you're eating, and so obviously he's not going to kick you out, is he? But you're eating food that's not yours. It's like working for somebody, he's paying your salary, you're not doing any work. And it's just because, oh, this happened and that happened. He's like, okay, whatever, okay. So we need to respect ourselves, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells men, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَةِ, right? Don't leave her just hanging. Here's a wife that's your wife, but not really a wife. Similarly, here's your husband. He's a husband, but not really a husband. Sister, respect yourself and say, brother, let's try and sort this out. Just give me a day or so, sort things out, fix it. Try again to fix it. Try again to fix it. Try again to fix it. And say, brother, I'm sorry. I just can't do this. Please, I will pay you. It's called khula'. I will pay you to let me go. Respect yourself, right? You can't do the job. Go and tell the manager, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do this. Otherwise, you're getting your money for what? Right? But the problem is, in her mind, she doesn't even think that's important anyway. She looks at this like, this guy's childish. It's a childish request. Like, what about the kids? What about this? So the kids are not your responsibility. They're my responsibility. Their homework, their future. I'm the husband. You're not the husband. You have one role. That's your what role? She doesn't see that. So this person who comes in, he prayed 5 tahiyyat al-masjid and 400 rak'ahs before dhuhr and didn't pray dhuhr. I went on Hajj and he said, how was the Kaaba? Which Kaaba? I was at Mina the whole time. Right? He's like, what are you talking about? So this is what we do, is we need to worship Allah as Allah wants us to worship him. What is the priority that Allah wants? Right? What is the priority that Allah wants? Not what's on something else. So I don't know, did any sisters, shaykhas, say that in the beginning of Ramadan? By the way, sisters, your number one fard is fasting, praying 5 prayers, fasting the day and being available? No. They said, let's do a khatam, let's do this, let's do that. They prioritize something that's not even important. And they leave out what is most important. May Allah forgive us all. And I'm sorry to go again. I have a whole lecture on this, on these things, and it's a very important thing. And so may Allah forgive us all. So this says, your spouses are a garment for you, and you're a garment for them. Allah knows that you were deceiving yourselves by doing things even though it was haram for you. So He has accepted your repentance and pardoned you. So now you may be intimate with them and seek what Allah has prescribed for you, i.e., of children. And so when you say the basic goal of marriage is halal intimacy and also the right to have a child. So the ulama, they disagree on this issue, right? So obviously you cannot demand that your wife get pregnant if it's going to harm her. Obviously, la darar wa la dirar, it's obvious, okay? But what about, for example, that it's not going to harm her, but the husband doesn't want to have any more children? The husband doesn't want to have any more children. Does she have a haqq to do that? They debate, right? So generally speaking, they're either saying it's haram for him not to do that. She's like, yeah, I want another 5 children. She's like, you have 5 children. Why do you want more children? And she's like, I want to have more children. This is my haqq, right? I have the ajr for each child. I want to have the ajr. I want to have children in my life, right? And so, it's something that should be worked out in a careful way, but people should be careful that, okay, by default, you can't really, there's a debate on it, but by default, you can't say no, right? Unless there's clear harm. You sit down and say, sister, You're not seeing things properly. Remember, you had a breakdown, you're in hospital for this. Remember this. Like, it's not good for you. The doctor says no. Everybody's saying no. Okay. Let's wait a year. Okay, sure, but let's wait 2 years. Let's wait, right? But by default, this is a haqq, right? So, like having children, this really hit me with the whole LGBTQ plus, right? I'm 14, I'm doubting my masculinity. I go and talk to my teacher, then I change gender, and now I can't have children. It's like, subhanAllah, you can't have children. Like when I see people who can't have children, it's like, subhanAllah, because it's like food. Like eating is like staying alive. It's like being held underwater. I can't breathe. Let me breathe. Having a child is the same thing. Like, let me continue. Like this is just a basic need. I want my life to continue in my children. Right? This is a basic thing. So seek what Allah has prescribed for you, i.e., of children, and eat and drink until you see the light of dawn breaking on the darkness of the light. And so Imam Muhammad, not Imam Muhammad, but Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, he said this is a proof that you can fast while being in janaba. So it's the proof that you can fast while being in janaba. Why? Because it says eat and drink until you see fajr. So that means here's fajr and I ate and drink until that. I.e., I ate and drink and intercourse, for example. So that means the person had intercourse until fajr. So obviously they're going to be in janaba. So that means the fasting day started while they're in janaba. So part of the day passed while they're in janaba. So that means it's valid. As opposed to what about if a part of the day passed while the woman was on her period? No, her fast doesn't count. If she starts her period, for example, 10 minutes before Maghrib, khalas, the fast doesn't count. It's not a fast. Whereas if you're in janaba, somebody had a wet dream, for example, or something like that happened, it doesn't, intercourse breaks the fast, but being in janaba does not break the fast. They're two different things, right? He said then complete the fast until night. He says, do not be intimate with your spouses while they're meditating in the mosques. So here this is a dalil for the Jumhur that you cannot be in the mosque in janaba. Right? So it says, do not have intercourse in i'tikaf. You're in i'tikaf in the masjid, you cannot have intercourse. Right? And so the position of the Jumhur of the ulama, the majority of the ulama, is this means you cannot be in the mosque if you're a junub, if you need to make ghusl, or if you're ha'id, if you're on your period. You can't be there. Because what is the result of intercourse? Being janaba, right? So I'm in i'tikaf, like someone's in i'tikaf and they have a wet dream. Okay. Did you do something haram? No. Wake up, go and make ghusl. Okay, can you just go back to sleep and not make ghusl? No, you can't stay in the masjid like that. You can't stay in the masjid like that. You cannot be in the masjid in janaba, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he was in i'tikaf, for example, and I believe it was Aisha radiallahu anha. She put her hand inside the masjid to give him something, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, give me such a thing. And she said, I can't, I'm menstruating. She said, yeah, but she said, your menstruation is not in your hand. Just pass it in like this. So she didn't go into the masjid on her period, right? This is the position of the Jumhur of the ulama, right? The Madahib al-Arba. Imam al-Muzani, the student of Imam al-Shafi'i, and Ibn Hazm, and I believe also Ibn Mundhir, also of the Shafi'is, they said, no, you can be in a masjid in janaba, right? Was not the Prophet visited by kuffar? Where it wasn't a kafir that was tied to the pillar in the masjid, right? And so a kafir is in janaba. They don't make ghusl, do they? Right? So he said, if a kafir can be in a masjid, then by a believer who's in janaba by a fortiori, of course, right? By a better right. So, this is talking about intercourse and it's not talking about anything else. So that's a very fringe opinion though, right? It's a very fringe opinion. But the position of the majority of ulama is you cannot be in a masjid if you're on your period or on your, or if you're in janaba. You can't do that. These are the limits set by Allah and do not exceed them. This is how Allah makes his revelations clear to people so they may become mindful of him. Do not consume one another's wealth unjustly, nor deliberately bribe authorities in order to devour a portion of others' property. So again, on a small level, we just mentioned a huge problem in Muslim societies, right? The family nucleus isn't working. So many people, they want to fix the world, but they don't want to fix their own house, right? And you see that with shuyukh so many times. This sheikh is amazing. 20 years later, you realize the whole family fell apart because he didn't prioritize his house, right? I come to Isha probably like 2 or 3 times a week. And I tell people Fajr and Isha are the most important times, and I believe that. And I also follow the opinion that it's wajib to be in the masjid. Like I believe it is wajib to be in the masjid. So Sheikh Farid, with all due respect, if it's wajib to be in the masjid, why aren't you here? So 2 nights I'm teaching, many nights my kids. It's like the kids are tired, family's tired, they need me there. And so my wife will ask me, she will say, can you stay? And so I said, yeah, I either have to be here or I have to be there. It's not an issue of choice. I'm not going to just, oh, it's convenient, just stay home. No, but it's like, this is a situation. I need to be here, right? These kids are crying, this thing's happening here, this thing's happening there, whatever. So I remember once, the sheikh, he's from the Bronx, right? He's a tough guy. Bronx, he was like half or quarter Cherokee, quarter like half Italian, like from the Bronx. He had 2 wives. I think like very masculine guy. And he was like, changing diapers is a good parenting. I was like, oh, men change diapers? I said, yeah, because like you're bonding with your kids, you're spending time with your kids. Your kids remember you helped me, daddy, right? They remember you helped. So now when I tell you, hey, bro, you got to pray. I have capital, right? I have bait, right? I have something to, otherwise you didn't help me out. You didn't do anything with me. I don't even know who you are. So that's on a house level. On a societal level, corruption. Do not deliberately bribe authorities. Welcome to the Middle East, right? Welcome to Pakistan. Welcome to, I don't know what countries, Afghanistan, right? And so bribery, this is a major problem, right? This is a major problem. And so obviously we understand some people in situations where they can't do anything. I'm a new policeman. I'm being paid enough to suffice 1/8 of the month. My salary covers 1/8 of the month. How else am I supposed to get by? And I have to bribe to get the job, otherwise I can't get a job. And I have to pay this and pay that. Like all of these, there's a system. So I'm not saying that every single person when the situation gets so bad, sometimes it's just how it is. Like you can't change the system. There's nothing you can do, right? And the situations as well where you have to pay a bribery because you don't have a haqq. Like I need to graduate. They're like, yeah, you can graduate. You have all the exam papers. Why can't I graduate? And 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, like, why can't I graduate? A year goes past, you graduated last year, you did all the paperwork. I want my paper. And they're like, yeah, you can have it. Okay, you can give it to me. Oh, inshallah. You're like, I don't understand. You're like, bro, just pay him. I'm like, oh, you didn't realize, right? So in situations you're like that, I can't get through a border. I'm a refugee. I can't get through a border. I need to be saved, right? There's issues of darura, right? And getting your haqq. But there are other situations where you could say no. You could say no, but you didn't, right? And so you're looking, oh, what's wrong with Pakistan? You're wrong with Pakistan. I'm not talking to you, but about it. But this is what we do. What's wrong with America? We are what's wrong with America, right? Don't look at, right? Don't look at, point the finger at everybody else. You and I, the little decisions we make, that's what ruins everything. Oh, look at the masjid. It's such a mess, brother. Instead of speaking, you could just pick up stuff, right? If every man would mend a man, then every man would be mended. If every man, so meaning yourself, if everybody fixed themselves, then the whole of humanity will be fine, right? So what we like to do is get rid of responsibility by complaining out society. But before that, it says, and do not consume one another's wealth unjustly, bil batil, right? A key concept, what is mal? What is mal, right? So when you say don't consume someone's wealth, that means something that has a qima, that is mal, that is property, that is wealth, that has a manfa'a, that has a usufruct, right? And so today we have a major problem, and it's not just recently. This has happened for a long time, which is called, number one, is called fiat currency. So fiat currency, fiat in Latin means be, right? Let it be. So fiat currency means money that you just create out of nothing. So once upon a time, you used to go to the Bank of England and say, I have this piece of paper that the Bank of England owes me this amount of my gold. And all I've been doing is exchanging this piece of paper, right? The bank owes me this amount of gold. I give it to Muhammad Shomani, owes him now. And then whoever has that piece of paper can go to the Bank of England and say, you owe me gold. So what you're doing is just exchanging gold. And gold has innate value. Not only does it have innate value, it's also recognized by the Sharia. We use it, gold and silver, we use as innate currency. It is the currency of the Sharia. Suddenly, with Nixon and other people, different times, we take out the gold standard. And now dollars literally mean nothing. But it is a lie that we all agree on, right? Just like the dinosaur, the T-Rex that's outside. I believe in him, you believe in him, and so we're all very scared. And then we hire Badr $5,000 a day to save us from the T-Rex that's outside, but he's not there, and Badr is doing nothing, but yet we all pay for it. So it's a lie that we all agree on. And because everybody agrees on it, and because America has a big military, then we all value the dollar. If you give me $1 million, I'm happy. If you take it away from me, I'm sad. I can buy and sell with money, right? But in reality, it's nothing. And that's why you can just print money. You can't just print gold because you don't have gold, right? You don't have it. So there's only a certain amount of gold that this country has. If they have more gold, then there's more money. If they have less gold, then there's less money. But with fiat currency, you can just create money, right? And that's actually what happens when you borrow money from the bank. They are borrowing you, they're lending you 10 times the amount of money they actually have. So they have access to 10% of fake money, and then they lend you 100% or 10%, 1,000% of what they have. And so the reason they can do that is because it's all made up. It's not real, just numbers. Right? It's just numbers. And so is that halal or is that haram? Right? It's a problem. It's not just a problem for us, it's a problem for the whole world. It's a problem for the average American who I worked hard, I have 2 houses, and I turned that money into cash. 10 years later, the cash is not worth anything. Right? Because it's not actually money. Right? So whether it's valid or not valid, that's kind of a different discussion. But something we should, as human beings, as citizens of America, right? We swore allegiance to the flag. What does it mean? The way that we see it is an-nusr li kulli insan, that I'm going to be genuine. I want the good for every single human being, right? And we want the good for the people of this country. We want the good for the world. And one of the problems in the world is fiat currency, that you just make up money that doesn't exist. It's not a real money. So if people just dealt with actual assets, how much wood do you have in this country? How much gold do you have in this country? This country is a wealthy country. They have a lot of gold. They have lots of wood. They have lots of petrol. They have a lot of metal. It's a wealthy country. This country is poor. It doesn't have anything, as opposed to inventing money. Because if you invent money, you can now create systems that don't exist. And you can demand money. There's more demand money from things that don't exist, right? It's like, create like somebody managing man hours, right? I'm the manager and you all my employees. And say he has this many 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and I just create more hours. Brother, there's only this many people here. You've created more work than the people here. Obviously, something's going to go wrong. Because you say, no, I want this done by this time. It's not going to happen because you don't have that many man hours. So this is what they've done, is created things. So then what happens is you get whole issues, political issues, you get environmental issues, because we need more money, so we have to cut down more things and do this and do this. And so it's a very dangerous thing. So this concept here, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ, this is a concept in Islamic finance. Similarly, things that are tafih, some things that are pointless. Like, am I allowed, for example, like I'm a big fan of Abdul Aziz, right? One day I always make dua, Ya Allah, make me like Abdul Aziz. So I go up to him and say, I want the dust that comes off your shoe. I'll give you $10 million for the dust that comes off your shoe. Can you do that? I'm happy to pay it. He's happy to sell it. Is that halal? It's not halal. Because لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. That's just stupid, right? Or, hey, what is it, Mr. Beast? Do something stupid, I'll give you $10 million, right? It's like, wave at the camera, I'll give you $1 million. Waving at the camera for somebody like you that's not a thing. Maybe a celebrity, perhaps, I don't know, something else, but like a normal person, just stand there for a second and I'll give you $10 million. That's not a halal contract, because you're giving somebody something that has no manfa'a, there's no benefit in it. There's no use in that. So you're buying something that is pointless. Okay, and so they ask you, O Prophet, about the phases of the moon. Say they are the means for people to term time and pilgrimage. Righteousness is not in entering your houses from the back doors. What does this mean? Here, there's 2 tafsirs of this ayah. One is that they're asking this question about the moon, like, what does it mean? What about this? Allah, the Prophet said it's simple. The moon is there for 2 things. Well, one thing, it tells the time. So the moon is a clock. The stages of the moon tell us different times. So what day is this? Oh, this is the first month of the day of the moon, the second, etc. And then when is Hajj? Okay, well, after 3 moons, it's going to be this, and after 4 moons, it's going to be this. So it's a way of time. That's all it is. It's a clock, right? And so, and so they're trying to ask something that's not there, and they're trying to find out things that are not important. So the Prophet ﷺ is spelling everything out for them that's important, and they're asking silly questions. And so one tafsir is, it's righteousness is not in entering houses from the back doors, i.e., if you want to do something the right way, do it in the right way. I've told you to do something, just do it. Don't come in this way and that way and ask things that aren't relevant. The other thing is, no, that they used to do this thing that when they come back home, they had lots of like superstitions and rituals they used to do, is that they weren't able to come from the front door, they had to go in the back door. And so these weird superstitions are not part of the deen. That's another explanation. While the righteousness is to be mindful of Allah. So enter your homes through their proper doors and be mindful of Allah. Have taqwa, so you may be successful. Fight in the cause of Allah only against those who wage war against you, but do not exceed the limits. Surely Allah does not like transgressors. Kill them wherever you come upon them and drive them out of places from which they have driven you out. For persecution is far worse than killing. And do not fight them in the sacred mosque, the Masjid al-Haram, until they attack you there. And if they do so, then fight them. That is the reward of the disbelievers. But if they cease, then surely Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Fight against them if they persecute you, until there is no more persecution, and your devotion will be to Allah alone. If they stop persecuting you, then there shall be no hostility except against the aggressors. There will be retaliation in a sacred month for an offense in a sacred month, and all violations will bring about retaliation, qisas. So if anybody attacks you, retaliate in the same manner, i.e., you're allowed to. As we mentioned yesterday, what is the sunnah? Somebody kills your father. What's the sunnah? I forgive you. You can't do that? Okay, you have a haqq. You can have him executed, but that's it. You can't go beyond it. We can't turn it into a tribal warfare. We can't do that. But be mindful of Allah and know that Allah is with those mindful of Him. Spend in the way a cause of Allah and do not let your own hands throw you into destruction. And then it says in brackets here, by withholding. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. So وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Don't throw yourselves into destruction. It means ruin the system. Right? So there is a need for jihad and it's not being done. So everything is just destroyed by people not spending. And do good, for Allah certainly loves the good doers. And then inshallah tomorrow we'll start with the Hajj. So again, we covered the Hajj in the other class. Inshallah we'll read through it. Inshallah ta'ala we'll stop there. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad. So apologies and no apologies. I'm very frank because the Quran is very frank. Quran does not pull any punches. As long as we can, we're not going to pull any punches. So, subhanallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.